Continuing with Brett Allen Winter's Declaration of 76, United States Constitution, a common lawyer comments clause by clause, pages 61 to 66. Article 1, Section 1, Clause 1. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. Comment. This legislative powers clause means that only Congress shall legislate, that is, pass laws. In short, Congress cannot delegate its powers to legislate. Consequently, Congress's ratification of a president's regulations reverses the course of process for passing legislation, or unlawful legislation. The Senate, by the letters old men, affords each state equal representation of 2 senators. The House of Representatives affords representatives from each state in proportion to its population. See this handbook, U.S. Declaration of 76, sections 15, 19, 24, and comments. Section 2, Clause 1. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branches of the state legislature. Comment. Every 2 years, the people of each state elect their representatives to Congress. In order to vote in an election for the House of Representatives, a person must meet his state's qualifications to vote in an election for the most numerous branch of his state's legislature, usually called the state's House of Representatives. See this handbook, U.S. Declaration of 76, Section 8, and comment. Colonial legislatures as Parliament had 2 houses, each independent of the other, and were thus each called a branch of the state legislature. Section 2, Clause 2. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. Comment. To become a member of the House of Representatives, the candidate must be at least 25 years old, have been a citizen of the United States for 7 years, and live in the state that shall choose him. No more qualifications may be added to these 3. Therefore, a candidate can run for congressional representative in one state while residing in another. But the House cannot lawfully seat that representative-elect unless, when elected, he lived in the state that chose him. Because there are only these 3 qualifications the people have sent to Congress, felons, so-called. See the handbook, U.S. Declaration of 76, Section 8, and comment. Section 2, Clause 3. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. Comment. Amendment 14, Section 2 modifies the foregoing clause concerning representatives, now requiring only 3 things. 1. The number of representatives allowed each state shall be based on its population. 2. Congress must tally the people of the United States every 10 years. And 3. Each state must have at least 1 representative. The reference to other persons in the phrase 3/5 of all other persons is to slaves. Since common law and our Constitution forbids slavery, this part of the clause now has no use. Direct taxes are taxes one cannot avoid, by shifting them to another without forfeiting one's rights, such as a head tax on every living person, or a tax on compensation for one's labor or services rendered. This clause requires Congress to distribute any such direct tax amongst the states in proportion to each state's population. See this handbook, U.S. Declaration of 76, Section 19, U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4, Amendment 6, and comments. Section 2, Clause 4. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000. But each state shall have at least 1 representative, and until such enumeration shall be made, the state of New Hampshire shall be entitled to choose 3. Massachusetts, 8. Rhode Island and Providence Plantations, 1. Connecticut, 5. New York, 6. New Jersey, 4. Pennsylvania, 8. Delaware, 1. Maryland, 6. Virginia, 10. North Carolina, 5. South Carolina, 5. And Georgia, 3. Comment. This census clause empowers the general government to number the persons living in each state, beginning in 1790, 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress. And every 10th year after. This enumeration must never be estimated but actual. The clause grants no right to more information. U.S. Marshals gathered the first census. Congress enacted the Census Bureau 112 years later in 1902. The farmers knew that a representative's representation of more than 30,000 persons is meaningless. Thus, as our population grows, the number of congressmen is to increase. In 1929, however, Congress restricted the House of Representatives to 435 members. The purpose of tallying the population in each state is twofold: to determine the number of representatives each will send to Congress, and to enable the burden of direct taxes to be laid on each state in proportion to its population. The farmers meant to avoid today's domineering and meddlesome federal census-taking bureaucrats. In short, the farmers pictured a simple head count of people living in each state so that each state's representation in Congress would be fair for purposes of taxation. Bottom line, the Constitution never empowers government to collect more information than the number of persons in each household. See this handbook, U.S. Declaration 76, Section 19 of comment. End comment. Thus, census forms demanding information beyond an actual enumeration run afoul of our Constitution. Section 2, Clause 5. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. Comment. A writ is a written command from one part of government having a certain authority to another part under that authority to do a certain thing. Thus, a House of Representatives seat becomes vacant. This clause requires the governor, the executive authority of the state having that vacant seat, to issue a written order to the election commission of his state to hold a special election to fill that vacancy. If, however, the next regular scheduled election is to be held soon, the governor need not call a special election. See this handbook, U.S. Declaration of 76, Section 8, and comment. Section 2, Clause 6, the House of Representatives shall choose their Speaker and other officers, and shall have the sole power of impeachment. Comment. This clause requires the House of Representatives to choose and seat a Speaker of the House. Its method of doing so is the House's choice and no others. The House's impeachment of a government office holder for wrongs done is akin to the grand jury's indictment of a person for a crime. Just as a grand jury indictment empowers the trial jury to try the one indicted, House impeachment empowers the Senate to try the one impeached. Only the House can impeach, never the Senate. Section 3, Clause 1. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Comment. The foregoing clause requires that each state legislator pick its state's 2 senators for Congress. Amendment 17 changes this clause, requiring the voters to each state to choose their state senator by a majority, weakening the people's stake in state legislator elections, inciting senators to manipulate the people. See this handbook, U.S. Constitution, Amendment 17, and comment. Section 3, Clause 2. Immediately after they shall be assembled in consequence of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the 2nd year, of the second class at the expiration of the 4th year, and of the third class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year. Comment. After the first Senate seated had done all that this clause demands, the Senate still followed this provision as each new state was added with 2 new senators. Consequently, with the exception of 2/3 of the first Senate seated, all senators since have been elected to a 6-year term. To a 6-year term. Okay. The bold continues with, and if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. And in the box, by requiring staggered elections of senators, our Constitution gives us a stable, slow-moving, and sure-footed regular body, less blown about by the ever-shifting foolishness of political winds. So the comment for the remaining bold section, Amendment 17 modifies this clause, changing the method of filling empty Senate seats. The governor of the Senate, needing to fill its vacant Senate seat, must appoint a senator until the people, not the state legislature, elects one. Senators are still elected to 6-year terms, with 1/3 of the senators facing re-election every 2 years, and 2/3 being held over. To balance the Senate's slowness with quicker responses to the people, the entire House of Representatives, by contrast, faces re-election every 2 years. See this handbook, U.S. Declaration of 76, Section 8, and comment.